Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Let's Dev. Today we continue celebrating the month of October by working on our spooky auto runner game. Now, last time we started working on our hero movement and player control, two very different aspects because our game features a hero the player doesn't directly control. As a result, the weird premise left us with some major movement issues, and so we had to cut things short so I could figure them out, because math is hard. So today we pick up from there. We'll continue tweaking the hero and player control a bit to ready it for action. Action in the form of a boss fight, which will feature its own set of attack patterns. We'll get as far as we can and see if we're better off today than we were last time. Now that sounds like a plan, so let's get to the coding. First things first, as I said last time, I figured out our directional movement issue. If you're wondering, here's what you can do to restrict the movement to 360 degrees, no matter how much is added or subtracted. Why does it work? I don't know, and I don't dare question the evil black magic that is math. All I know is that it works and we now have proper control over our hero via our player object. So next I wanted to add even more control. I gave the ghost a state variable and used the good old switch to set up different behaviors for each state. State 0 is our default state, state 1 would be a pause state, and state 2 would be the bounce state we worked on last video. Then in the mouse check, I had the left click initiate state 1 and had the right click initiate state 2, with the cooldown timer kind of preventing players from spam clicking. The results now allowed players to temporarily stop the ghost's movement with left click and redirect the ghost with right click. This is currently exactly what we're after, and so I moved on to our next task, the boss fight. Since this is a time-sensitive and themed project, I wanted to get straight to the good stuff, and so a temp doodle for our boss was drawn. Don't worry, actual art will be added eventually. I added state and time variables to the boss because that's how we'll be creating our attack patterns. Much like our ghost, each state behavior will be directed through the good old switch, with state 0 being the default state that'll choose the next attack. The first attack was what I simply called the dropper. On spawn, the dropper obstacle marks where the danger will fall from. Once the grace period ends, it then draws a vertical line of danger down the height of the play area. I then had 3 spawn at random X coordinates at the top of the screen. I initially used the draw sprite tiled code here, which was all wrong. Just all wrong. Seriously, ew. So I switched to a simple loop to draw the danger tiles properly, and there we had it, our first attack was completed. Now that I knew the attack itself worked, I wanted to liven up the presentation with some added movement. So I created temp variables to mark the boss's destination, and once it reaches said destination, only then would it initiate the attack. This would override the original timer-based system we had in place, which I also applied to the default state. Timers were then used between states to create breaks between attacks. So in other words, instead of relying on timers, the boss now relied on positioning to determine when to attack. The results were a much more organic feeling boss that shifted around and helped create a tell for the incoming attack. So with our first attack working beautifully, it was time to start on the next attack. This one would require a bit more work and a new position variable. The position variable would determine where in the attack sequence the boss currently is, but I couldn't figure out the right way to code it. After some thinking, I decided to just code the first position and work from there. The first position would work much like the first attack, but instead of creating a dropper, it would create a horizontal danger. Once I had the code written out, it finally made sense. I had the position variable increase by 1 with each pass through the attack sequence. With some basic math, this allowed me to move the boss into its next position without extra code. And after some tweaking to the numbers, we had a 3-stage attack where the boss fires projectiles at 3 different heights, all with cool little movements before and after to help mark the next attack. And that's about it for today's session. Our boss now has 2 different attacks it can cycle through, and yes, they're pretty simple, but given the premise of the game, we're not out to torture the player. As it stands, we've got some great variation and possibly more to come next time. But for now, that'll do it for this episode of Let's Dev. So remember that if you like this video or enjoy Let's Dev in general, be sure to hit that like button. If you aren't already subscribed, be sure to hit that subscribe button and be sure to turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode. And as always, be sure to leave your thoughts on our progress in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.